where do you go from here? Do you look long term, or are you really looking short term? Like, no, we still got to win now, and that's where you talk about the moves. Talking about who's available, who can you get. You've got Chris's deal that's partially guaranteed in year 3, partially guaranteed in year 4. Like, you've got a little wiggle room, and now we're talking about tax bills with their ownership history. Like, we're in an uncomfortable
That's
position.
what worries me. Yeah, like exactly what you just said there is what worries me. I really have concerns that this was their window. Last year and this year was their window because it was right before they got expensive. Deandre Ayton is going to have to get paid. He's either going to get paid by Phoenix or he's going to get paid by someone else. Like, Deandre Ayton is going to be on a max contract next year. I do not see a world where someone doesn't max him. San Antonio has a need in the middle, and they have a very easy way to be able to get to max cap space. Detroit has a need in the middle, has a very easy road to max cap space. Oklahoma City has max cap space and certainly has a need in the middle, although it seems like Detroit and Oklahoma City will have options at the top of this NBA draft that could potentially fill that need. So the teams that do have cap space, they're kind of on DeAndre's timeline in terms of what his age is. You can easily make a case for that. And then there are also just going to be sign and trade potential ideas that will make sense that Phoenix will obviously have to go along with in order to potentially make that a doable thing. Like, honestly, if I was Dallas, I would have some interest at the very least. I don't know if like it would be my number one option necessarily, but I think that depending on the way the offseason unfolds and finding out what you have kind of, as a potential option before the offseason, anyone who says that, these deals aren't done ahead of time, like in that these deals that are agreed to at 12:01 a.m. on July 1st or whatever are not pre-negotiated. I mean, get the fuck out of here. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I think that, Dallas is going to have a real opportunity. Toronto has a need in the middle, and I think has a chance to be pretty active in the center market. Like, there are a number of different teams here that can convince themselves that they should max DeAndre Ayton to where I don't see a world where he doesn't get maxed at the end of the day. And this is where it gets complicated because I think the Suns were hoping one of two things would happen: that DeAndre would prove he is not worth a max contract, or that he would prove he's undoubtedly worth a max contract and they'll just pay him, right? It's somewhere in the middle now. I think he's going to get one. I think he's unquestionably going to get one. But is he worth it? I don't know. I mean, how would you handle this Suns offseason with DeAndre? Because, like I said, I think the Suns have made their choice. I don't know which one it is necessarily, but I think they know. But how would you personally handle it? Because I have an idea and I'll share it after, but I want to get you involved here.
It was important for you to emphasize there again that they've made their decision already, because the way that they handled the extension period last summer, before the season kind of started, the way that I phrased it when I wrote about it is you can't nickel and dime with premium young talent. You just can't do it. You have to pay them their money when it's coming up. You just have to. So,
or you make the decision that they're not worth it.
Exactly. So that's all this came down to, really, is that they were willing to meet at a certain price. DeAndre wanted the max price because he is premium young talent in this league, and he's got a lot left to show in his game still. And he has sacrificed a lot with his team, a lot. Now, is the DeAndre Ayton getting the ball on the block 6 times a quarter better than the one that we've seen in Phoenix now? Probably not. It's probably been for the better for his development with the way he's gone through. But that doesn't change the fact that he has sacrificed a ton playing this role. And we've seen how it can lead to him being very effective, and we've seen how it can lead to him just disappearing from games, which is what we saw for most of this series. So to the point on nickel and diming, I think you have to bring him back. I really do think you have to. I don't see the avenues for them beyond this. Like, if you've got trade ideas, please send them my way. But in terms of just what they can get done here that's feasible, I don't know. But I look again and just wonder how much is going to change because of the way that they just exited the postseason. And you just look at the way that he was playing in that game specifically, and the way that he played specifically in the last 5 games, just the amount of energy he didn't have. And you do kind of wonder, like, was that it for him? I don't know. He came out of the game 3 minutes into the third quarter for Bismack Biyombo. There was a little bit of an exchange there between him and Monty Williams. It didn't seem like DeAndre was happy, but Monty pulled him because the energy wasn't there. So
Yeah.
it's really fascinating because I think the thing that I should emphasize here, he outplayed the MVP in a playoff series last year. He got the better of Nikola Jokic in a playoff series, defended him in a way that, like, we don't see Nikola Jokic get, like, stopped in a game or limited, and he limited Nikola Jokic. He outplayed Anthony Davis the series before that. He was incredible last postseason. Like, I know the finals didn't really go that way. In the Western Conference Finals, Clippers are spreading the floor. That, you remember that Game 4 rock fight, Sam, that was like 84-81? The defensive, like, master class that he had in that game. He was phenomenal, and they were 5 out. But he just laid an egg for 5 straight games, and now you got to pay him money. I don't really – I think they should bring him back just based on the ceiling that we've seen him reach consistently. But for his worst moment as a Sun, I think we can phrase it as, besides the 25-game suspension, his worst moment as a Sun so far in these 5 games, for it to come now, right before he's going to get paid, it's terrible timing. But I'm with you. We're going to sit here staring at the ceiling for 3 weeks. Someone's going to give him the max, and then we're going to be like, all right, you've got your – is it 48, 72 hours? I can't remember specifically. The time to match.
Yeah,
we're going
to match.
We're going to put our hands in our pockets. We're going to twiddle those thumbs and just kind of wait and see. I don't know.
So you were in the locker room. You were at the press conference.
Yeah.
The way it was phrased when Monty Williams gave his answer on why DeAndre Ayton sat was, I saw a couple of tough, I saw a couple of sterns, is the phrasing. Can you explain the Monty Williams response about DeAndre Ayton only playing 17 minutes when he said it's internal?
He was asked, and then he just said 2 words, that's internal, that's it. Very stern, very direct answer. I don't think it's unlike Monty to answer questions that way specifically. I catch myself sometimes, we've all had this experience as people asking questions where you accidentally say the wrong thing. And then I basically said, like, hey, why didn't you play each one more tonight? And then he looked at me like I was crazy. And it's like, I'm the head coach of the basketball team. You're the guy with the laptop. Like, don't ask me that. He's always been that kind of guy with those questions, which I completely respect. So I think it was one of those similar ones. But the way that he exited the game, and then the way that he just played 17 minutes, and the way that that answer was phrased, and just the way that it was, just the fact that there is anything internal at all, it's not good.
Feels concerning.
It isn't internal. It kind of reeks a little bit of concern. Yeah.
What I would do is I would bring everyone back and I would run this back and I would say, okay, we're going to fill around the cracks. The only question is whether or not Robert Sarver is willing to pay for that. And like, well, let me rephrase. The real question is, will Robert Sarver own the team? There is currently investigation regarding Robert Sarver. Who knows? The NBA seems to have kept a lid on that somehow. Like, everything seems to leak out in the NBA, but this is one that has not. So you just never know in terms of the way things are going to crumble at the end of the day. But if it's Robert Sarver, he's going to have to decide whether or not he wants to pay drastically into the luxury tax or if he's not. If money was not an object, I run this thing back and I figure out, okay, maybe I move Cam Johnson and the Dario Saric money for another guy, right? Maybe I move, Jay Crowder and something for another guy. Although
Shamet contract is the one that you, for their sake, you hope they can move it still.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And that's the other thing. Like, I think that they've made pretty poor moves on the margins over the last couple of years. The Landry Shamet deal is fucking nonsensical. I have no idea how that happened. And you decide to pay him and not DeAndre. Like, I don't know how that happens. You pay Campaign like a not insubstantial amount of money. Like, Campaign and Landry Shamet might not be able to play in a playoff game, like either of them, and they're going to make a combined $17 million next year. Like, that's half of your money for DeAndre Ayton. Like, it's money that you're going to be paying Cam Johnson down the road. So you need to find a way to get off of those dollars, I think. It's the other thing that's weird to me is that it was very clear that the window was open this year. Like, this was their season. We've known that next year is going to be a fucking gauntlet. Like, we've known that from the start of this year when Kawhi Leonard was likely going to miss the entirety of this year and was going to be back next year. So we knew that there was going to be at least one extra team that was going to make it way harder for everyone in the Western Conference next year. To not go all in at the deadline this year was very strange to me. And I don't know why they didn't do it. I can't put my finger on, like, look, it was hard to make deals at this deadline. I know that a lot of deals got done, but like, it was hard to make difference-making deals this year at the deadline. There had to be something, though. Like, you had to be able to go out and get another wing, another anything
ball handler
to be able to go help.
Yeah. I wrote a piece in like mid-January, and this is when Campaign was not playing well at all. After he was sensational last year, was one of the 3 or 5 best backup point guards in the league, was incredible in the Western Conference Finals, was really good against the Lakers in the postseason. Didn't have that good of against the series against the Bucks. That's okay. And then Shamet just like it didn't look like it was clicking at all for him. And the whole like proposition I made at the end of the piece was, are you willing to bet on these two guys when you have a chance to win a championship? Are you willing to do that? And what we saw unfold in this series, Sam, is that Shamet played outstanding in Game 5 when he came back in and played like that pseudo point guard role off the bench. And then everything else was terrible. Payne was terrible. Shamet was terrible in his other minutes. Like it was just really bad. And we talked about Eric Gordon for weeks. We talked about other names where, you're going to take in Eric Gordon's $20 million. You're going to increase your luxury tax bill even more next year. But like a pick or two or whatever it is, a first-round pick or whatever, just to get a guy in who can be a little bit of a security blanket in case things don't go as planned in the postseason. And you can go as high as like someone getting hurt, or you can go as low as this, which is Devin Booker's getting trapped because Chris Paul isn't doing anything. There was a possession tonight in like the second or third quarter where Book got trapped on the left wing. He swung it on the right wing to Chris, and Chris just stood there with the ball for 2 or 3 seconds assessing things. And it's like, you can't like, you're Chris Paul, you know this, you got to go. And it's just, I don't think he could go on the quad. Dallas knew that, and they just really exploited Book that whole time. And they just really needed another ball handler on this team drastically. Torrey Craig coming in helped, and they got what they needed out of him. He didn't really play that well coming after the deadline, but that happens. It's okay. But for them to not get another ball handler and just completely bank not their season, but just really a lot on the play of Campaign and Landry Shamet when it was not good in the first half of the season. Those guys had moments when they figured it out, but they didn't when it counted. And it just really was a missed opportunity for them to, like you said, go all in. And that was the thing, Sam, like gauging the fan base online. Everyone was like, yes, do it. This championship has never come to this franchise. They don't have one. They still don't have one anymore. And for them to just not really go all in, even last year, but this year as well, was just really surprising, because it felt like the year. I mean, Eric Gordon, again, it was like he played with Chris Paul, and like those minutes with him on Houston, like I was looking at the splits, and like he played his best with Eric Gordon, and it's like all this stuff really lined up with it, and it didn't happen for whatever reason. For whatever reason, they weren't able to get anything done with him or any other target they could have gotten at the deadline.